I told myself she was off limits. And I meant it, right up until the moment she looked at me. It wasn't even a long look. Just a few seconds that stretched and twisted everything quiet between us. I remember her eyes first, soft, amber in the low light, and then the way her lips almost curved, as if she was holding back a secret she didn't trust the room to hear. She was my friend's mother. Or at least, that's how the world would have labeled her. To me, she was just her, graceful, composed, the kind of woman who carried silence like it was music. Even when she spoke, her voice seemed to settle into the air instead of cutting through it. That evening, the house felt too still. The others had gone out, her son, the noise, the easy excuses, leaving the two of us in that quiet space. A lamp hummed faintly in the corner, throwing gold against the walls. She was sitting at the kitchen table, reading, glasses resting near her hand, the faintest trace of perfume drifting through the air, something floral, worn in, like memory itself. I stood by the counter, pretending to look for something to do with my hands. "You should be out with them," I said, just to break the silence. She smiled without looking up. "And leave you to burn the place down? I think I'll supervise." Her tone was playful, but there was something underneath it, something that made my pulse catch. She finally glanced up, and that look, it stayed longer than it should have. I forgot to breathe for a second. "Supervise, huh?" I said, forcing a small laugh. "MMH," she murmured, setting her book aside. "Someone has to keep an eye on you." Her hand brushed mine when she reached for the glass beside me. It wasn't intentional, at least, it didn't seem so, but it was enough. Enough to make the air between us change. There's a strange kind of silence that happens when two people realize they're both aware of the same forbidden thought. It's not loud, not even obvious. It's just there, humming quietly beneath every word that follows. I felt it when she took a slow breath, eyes flicking down and back up again. She didn't move away. Neither did I. She was close enough that I could see the faint line of a smile forming, half amusement, half hesitation. "You're too quiet," she said softly. I shrugged. "Just don't want to say the wrong thing." Her laugh was small but real, the kind that trembles between sincerity and something else. "Then don't," she said. "Just be honest." I met her gaze. The way she looked at me, it wasn't motherly, or casual, or anything safe. It was curious. Searching. Like she was testing how much truth I could stand. "I'm trying," I said. The words slipped out before I could stop them. She tilted her head slightly, her eyes flickering down toward my mouth, so quickly I almost doubted it happened. Then she smiled again, softer this time. "Good," she whispered. For a moment, no one spoke. The ticking clock filled the space like a heartbeat. I could smell the warmth of her skin, the faint citrus from her drink, the linen of her blouse brushing against the counter's edge. Her hand lingered near mine again, not touching this time, but close enough that my fingers ached with awareness. She looked down at our almost touch, then back at me. "You know you shouldn't," she said quietly. "I know. Then why do you look at me like that?" I wanted to answer. I really did. But before I could, a door opened down the hall, the unmistakable sound of footsteps returning. Her hand drew back instantly. Her face turned away, calm again. But her smile, that stayed, just barely, in the reflection of the kitchen window. And I realized then. I was already too far gone. The next few days were quieter than usual. Or maybe it was me who'd gone quiet, afraid of hearing what might slip out if I spoke too much. I told myself that night in the kitchen meant nothing. A moment, nothing more. But every time I thought of her, I could still feel that small distance between our hands, the warmth that never really faded. When I saw her again, she was out in the garden, kneeling by the roses. The late afternoon light turned her hair into this soft bronze halo. She looked up, noticed me by the doorway, and smiled the kind of smile that made time slow down a little too much. "You're early," she said, brushing her palms against her jeans. "Didn't have much else to do?" She nodded, but there was that same flicker of hesitation, as if she wanted to say something else, but didn't trust the sound of it. I walked closer, picking up the spare watering can beside her. Need help? Only if you know how not to drown them. I can try. The corner of her mouth lifted again, and for a few seconds we just stood there, two people pretending a garden was enough to fill the silence. I wanted to ask her about her life, not the version people already knew, but the one behind her eyes. The one that looked like it carried too much memory. Instead, she asked first, "You ever been in love?" I looked at her, surprised by how casually she'd said it. "Once," I admitted. "Didn't end well." She nodded, turning back to the flowers. "They rarely do." There was something in her tone, not bitter, just tired. I wondered about the man she used to be married to, the years she probably gave more than she got. Her left hand was bare now, but I could still see the faint mark where a ring had been. "I think," she said softly, "at a certain point you stop expecting to feel anything new." Her words lingered in the air, heavier than the scent of roses. "Maybe," I said, "until someone surprises you." She looked up at me then, sharply, as if I'd said something dangerous. The silence after was long, trembling. She didn't smile this time. She just held my gaze, steady and unflinching. Her hand reached toward a thorn stem, and I instinctively caught her wrist before she could prick herself. For a heartbeat, everything stopped. Her skin was warm under my fingers. She didn't pull away immediately, only blinked once, like she'd forgotten how to breathe. "You shouldn't," she whispered. "I know." And still, either of us moved. The moment broke only when a wind shifted through the garden, brushing her hair across her face. I let go slowly. She tucked a strand behind her ear, her eyes lingering on me a little longer than they should have. When she finally spoke again, her voice was quieter, careful. "You remind me of someone I used to be." I didn't know what to say to that. So I just nodded, watching her stand brushing off her jeans. She turned toward the house, then paused, her hand grazing my shoulder as she passed. Just a small, fleeting touch. But it was enough. Enough to tell me that whatever we were pretending not to feel, either of us was winning that battle anymore. It happened again, without meaning to. I'd stopped by to drop something off, a charger her son had left in my car. It should have been a minute at most. But when she opened the door, barefoot, with her hair loosely tied and a soft cardigan hanging off her shoulder, time did that strange thing again. It hesitated. "Hey," she said, her voice calm, but her eyes carrying that same unspoken warmth. "Come in. He's not here right now, but I'll make sure he gets it." I should have handed it over and left. Instead, I stepped inside. The house smelled like coffee and rain, that clean, quiet kind of afternoon where everything felt suspended. She walked ahead, placing the charger on the counter, and poured another cup without asking. "You've been avoiding me," she said simply. My pulse stumbled. "You think so?" Her gaze flicked to me, steady and knowing. "You barely looked at me the last time you were here." "I was trying to be careful." She smiled faintly. "That's good. But you're terrible at it." The silence after that was electric. She handed me a cup, her fingers brushing mine, and for a second neither of us let go. The air between us tightened, not tense, just too aware. She looked at my hand still holding hers, then slowly pulled back, her breath catching. "People talk, you know," she said, almost to herself. "I don't care." "You should." "I can't." That last word hung heavier than I expected. I didn't even mean to say it that way, it just came out raw, too honest. She looked at me like I'd said something I couldn't take back. Before she could answer, her phone buzzed on the counter. A message. Her son's name flashed on the screen. She froze for a heartbeat, her jaw tightening, then turned the phone face down. "He's on his way," she murmured, though her voice sounded distant. We both knew what that meant. The moment should have ended there. But she took one step closer, maybe to say something, maybe just out of habit, and the space between us disappeared. I could see the small freckle near her collarbone, the faint rise and fall of her breath. My chest ached with how much I wanted to close the distance, to forget every reason not to. "Don't," she whispered, but her voice shook. "I'm not." I started, though I didn't know what I was about to say. Her eyes met mine, wide and conflicted. "You're too young to ruin yourself like this. And you're too lonely to pretend you don't feel it," I said before I could stop myself. Her breath hitched. For a second she didn't move, then she reached up, fingers trembling, and touched my cheek like she wasn't supposed to remember how. The world outside blurred, just rain against the windows, the low hum of a passing car. Then, a door latch turned somewhere in the house. We both froze. Her hand dropped. She stepped back too quickly, trying to steady her breathing. I moved away too, heart pounding so hard it felt audible. A few seconds later, voices drifted from down the hall. Her son's laugh, the sound of keys on the counter. She looked at me one last time, and in that look was everything we couldn't say. "Go," she mouthed. I did. But as I reached the door, she whispered just loud enough for me to hear, a trembling truth caught between defiance and need. "This can't keep happening." I turned back, meeting her eyes one last time. "Then stop me," I said quietly. She didn't doubt I avoided her for almost a week. Or maybe I tried to. It didn't work. Every time my phone lit up with a message that wasn't hers, it felt like a test I kept failing. When I finally saw her again, it wasn't planned. The rain had started just as I was walking home, and before I knew it, I was at her gate, soaked, breathless, holding nothing but the need to see her. She opened the door halfway, surprised. "You'll catch a cold," she said. "Then let me in," I said, more desperate than I meant to sound. She hesitated, then stepped aside. The warmth of her house hit me like a confession. Everything smelled like rain and the faintest trace of her perfume, lavender and something darker underneath. "You shouldn't be here," she murmured. "I know." "Then why? Because pretending we don't feel this is starting to hurt more than the risk." That silenced her. The way thunder silences everything for a second before the world starts breathing again. She turned away, arms crossed, but her voice trembled when she spoke. "You think this is simple? You think you can just walk in here and I think about you?" I interrupted, voice low, almost breaking. "Every day. Every time I try not to." Her shoulders stiffened. I could see her fighting it, the part of her that wanted to stay guarded. "You're too young to know what you want," she said finally. "Then teach me," I said. That made her turn. And for a moment, all the space we'd built between us just collapsed. She took a step forward. Then another. I could see the pulse in her throat, the tremor in her hands. Her eyes softened, not out of pity but surrender. "This is madness," she whispered. "Then let's stop pretending it's not." Rain tapped against the windows. The clock in the hallway ticked too loud. We stood so close I could feel her breath on my chin, her warmth against my soaked shirt. Her hand lifted slowly, hesitantly, brushing my hair from my forehead. The gesture was small, almost tender, but it carried years of restraint breaking apart. Her fingers lingered near my temple. My hand rose instinctively, finding her wrist. The skin there was soft, trembling slightly beneath my touch. She didn't pull away. "You don't know what this will cost me," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "Then let me share the cost." Her breath caught. Our foreheads almost touched. The air between us thickened, full of everything we hadn't said, everything we'd been trying to hide. I could feel her heartbeat against mine, her voice shaking as she finally said, "If we cross this line, there's no going back." I opened my mouth to answer, but just then, the sound of a car door outside, headlights sweeping briefly across the curtains. She froze. Our hands stayed clasped, unmoving, as the sound of footsteps approached the porch. I looked at her, eyes wide, lips parted, breath trembling. "We can't," she whispered. But she didn't step back. Neither did I. The doorbell rang. The doorbell's echo faded, leaving only the sound of our breathing. She stepped away first, smoothing her hair, steadying her voice. "Stay here," she whispered, her tone quiet but edged with panic. Through the frosted glass, I could make out a familiar shape. Her son, the very reason this entire thing was forbidden. My pulse slammed against my ribs. I backed toward the kitchen as she opened the door. Their voices blurred, casual at first, then quieter, careful. I couldn't hear every word, but I caught pieces. His name. My name. A pause that lasted too long. When he finally walked past the hall, he stopped at the edge of the kitchen doorway, eyes narrowing just slightly when he saw me. "Hey," he said, a little too sharply. "Hey," I managed, trying to sound normal. "What are you doing here?" I forced a shrug. "Dropping something off. Got caught in the rain." He looked at me, then at his mother. Something unreadable crossed his face, not suspicion exactly, but curiosity that burned too close. "You two talk a lot lately," he said casually, but his tone didn't match the words. She gave a small laugh that sounded nothing like herself. "He's just being polite, dear. You could learn from him." He smiled, half amused, half unconvinced, and disappeared upstairs. When his footsteps faded, she exhaled shakily, leaning against the counter. Her hands trembled just slightly as she pressed her palms against the wood. "That was close," I said quietly. She didn't look at me. Too close. The tension didn't leave. It only changed shape. It wasn't just guilt anymore. It was exposure, the terrifying nearness of being seen. Then she turned toward me, eyes glinting in the dim kitchen light. "He suspects something," she said, almost accusing. I didn't say anything. "No," she said, her voice lowering. "But maybe you don't realize what you're showing." Her words hit harder than I expected. "You think I want this to be obvious? I think," she said, stepping closer, "you feel more than you can hide." Her nearness undid me. My throat tightened. "And you don't?" She hesitated, just long enough to answer without words. Her silence said everything. Then she sighed and reached for the coffee pot, pretending to busy herself. "You should stop coming here," she said, voice almost steady. I stayed quiet. "You think this is about me protecting myself," she went on. "But it's not. It's about protecting you." That broke something open in me. "I don't want protection," I said, stepping closer, my voice low, rough. "I want the truth." She turned, startled, and for the first time, I saw it. The tears she hadn't let fall. "The truth," she whispered, "is that I think about you more than I should." The words hung there like lightning, too bright, too dangerous. Before I could reach for her, she brushed past me, close enough for her shoulder to graze my chest. The contact sent a current through me, warmth and ache tangled together. She stopped by the doorway, back turned, hand trembling on the frame. "If we keep this up, one of us is going to get hurt," she said softly. I swallowed, trying to breathe around the truth that already felt inevitable. "Maybe it's too late for that." She didn't turn around, but I saw her nod once slowly. Then, almost to herself, she whispered, "Come by tomorrow. We'll talk properly." Her tone said one thing. Her shaking hand said another. And I knew that whatever tomorrow brought, either of us would be able to walk away unchanged. The next evening, I told myself I wouldn't go. And then I went anyway. The rain had stopped, leaving the air heavy and damp, the kind that made every sound seem louder. Her porch light was on. I stood there for a long minute before knocking, one slow tap that felt like a confession. When she opened the door, she didn't look surprised. She just sighed, almost as if she'd known I would come. "You shouldn't be here," she said, but her voice didn't match her words. "I know." She stepped aside. I walked in. The house was dim, just a few lamps glowing against the quiet. No voices, no footsteps upstairs this time. Only us. For a while neither of us spoke. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, staring at the floor. I stood by the window, watching my reflection blur in the glass. Finally she said, "I thought about what I said yesterday." "So did I." She looked up then, her expression unreadable. "And?" I turned to her fully. I can't stop. Her breath caught. You think that's something to be proud of? No, I said. It's just true. Something in her face softened, frustration fading into something far more dangerous. She walked toward me slowly, each step careful, deliberate. You don't know what this means, she whispered. I know what it feels like, I said. She stopped in front of me, close enough that I could feel the heat of her body through the space that separated us. The scent of her skin, warm, faintly floral, filled the air between us. Say it then, she murmured. If you're so sure. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear my own voice. I want you. The words cracked something open between us. She closed her eyes for a moment, as if steadying herself, then reached up and brushed a strand of hair from my forehead. Her touch was trembling. You don't understand how much I've tried not to, she said. Her fingers lingered on my cheek. I caught her hand, holding it there. The moment stretched, no longer careful, no longer restrained. She leaned in slightly, her breath brushing my lips. If we do this, she whispered, it changes everything. I know. And you'll carry it with you, she said. So will I. I already do. Her eyes opened then, no longer guarded, no longer pretending. What I saw there wasn't control or hesitation. It was surrender, raw and terrifying. She moved closer, her forehead resting against mine. Her voice trembled. Tell me to stop. I can't. Neither of us moved for a long, aching second. The world outside disappeared, no rain, no rules, no distance left to protect us. And then she did what she'd been fighting for weeks. She let her hand slide to the back of my neck, pulling me closer until the space between us was gone, until every breath we took belonged to the same silence. But just before our lips met, she stopped, a heartbeat away, and whispered, almost in tears, We'll ruin each other. I nodded, my voice breaking. Maybe that's what love does. She smiled faintly, sadly, the kind of smile that understood everything too late. And for the first time, she didn't step back. The world felt different after that night, not louder, not brighter, just still. Like everything that had been waiting between us finally exhaled. We didn't speak much at first. There was too much in the silence, the kind that doesn't need filling, only breathing through. She sat by the window, morning light soft against her hair, a mug between her hands. I stood in the doorway, not sure whether to come closer or let her stay wrapped in that quiet. When she looked at me, there was no hiding left. No guilt sharp in her eyes, no fear of what might happen next. Just calm, the kind that follows surrender. You didn't run, she said finally. I almost did, I admitted, stepping closer. But I couldn't. She smiled, small, real. You're too young to understand what it means to stay. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I just know when something's worth it. Her eyes softened at that, and I saw the regret she'd been carrying shift, not vanish, but change shape. It wasn't a wound anymore. Just a scar she didn't mind showing. I kept thinking this would end in disaster, she said quietly. That you'd wake up and realize it was just a mistake. I shook my head. I already woke up. And it wasn't. Something in her posture broke then, the distance she'd built out of caution finally falling away. She reached out, fingers grazing mine before folding around them completely. Her touch wasn't tentative this time. It was steady, certain, like she'd made her peace with what she wanted. For a moment neither of us spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of the rain gutters outside, a rhythm that matched the slow beating of my pulse. I'm scared, she whispered. I know, I said. Me too. Her thumb brushed over my knuckles, slow, thoughtful. We can't pretend the world won't judge this. Then let them, I said softly. They don't get to live it. She laughed then, not the nervous kind, but the kind that sounds like relief. Then she pulled me closer, her arms looping around me in a slow, wordless embrace. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't desperate. Just warm, quiet, honest. The kind of closeness that made everything else irrelevant. I felt her rest her head against my shoulder, her breath calm again. I pressed a kiss to her forehead, barely a touch, and whispered, "You're not off limits anymore." Her smile brushed against my neck. "You're impossible," she murmured. "Maybe," I said, holding her tighter. "But I'm here." And she believed me. I could feel it in the way she didn't let go. The light shifted through the window, painting her face in soft gold. For once, neither of us needed to say what came next. The silence between us wasn't heavy anymore. It was full. Two people who had spent too long fighting what they already knew, finally choosing to stop fighting. And in that quiet morning, she smiled again, the same way she did that first night, and closed the distance.